coming up on the Ultra Running Magazine podcast.
Flagstaff, a golden ticket, and being vanilla. Stay tuned. This episode is supported by Drymax Socks. Proudly made in the USA, Drymax Socks are the most trusted sock in ultra running, and they're among its biggest supporters too. DrymaxDirect.com has a vast selection of technical socks that fulfill the extraordinary needs of you, the extraordinary ultra runner. Worn by the likes of Amelia Boone, Hayden Hawks, Anna Mae Flynn, Jared Campbell, Sabrina Little, and others that are all part of an unparalleled roster of the sport's most accomplished runners. Do yourself a favor. Trust your feet to Drymax to finish what you start.
You're listening to the Ultra Running Magazine podcast.
Hi, you guys. Welcome to a new episode of the Ultra Running Magazine podcast. I'm your host, Scotty Sando, and we have a hot episode for you today. It is in Fuego. All right. It was about 2 weeks ago that a relative unknown runner took the stage at Black Canyon and stole the spotlight. And if my feelers are right, he's about to steal your heart too. Trueheart Brown, yep, that's his name, Truehearts, who goes by the name True, rocked a very stacked field at Black Canyon and nabbed one of 3 golden tickets to Western States in the men's division with a first place finish. His time, 7 hours, 57 minutes. Followed closely by Scott Traer coming in at 8 hours, 3 minutes, and Jeffrey Colt wrapping up the Black Canyon Golden Ticket gang with the finish in 8 hours and 5 minutes. True joins us to talk about how the race unfolded, facing Western States, he's untested at the 100-mile distance, and other topics, including his experience working on a hotshot crew. True is a fire management officer with the Flagstaff Ranger District in the Cononino National Forest. He lives in wondrous Flagstaff, Arizona, with his very supportive wife and 2 children. My amigos, give it up for the remarkable Trueheart Brown. Well, I am pleased as punch to welcome True Brown to the show. True, coming off a first place finish at Black Canyon. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Doing really good, Scotty. Want to say thanks for the opportunity, and I appreciate the time to speak to you today.
So my first question for you, and it's an odd one, but you scored a golden ticket to Western States with your first place win. So as they do at these races, golden ticket races, they gave you an oversized golden ticket. I want to know, what did your kids think about that?
So they were pretty surprised by it. They were also really intrigued with the golden chocolate bar ticket too, because you get one of those as well, along with the trophy. And we haven't eaten it yet, but we're all going to share it. But no, they were really impressed. I think they haven't seen Charlie and the Chocolate Factory yet, but it's on the list, and they were really intrigued with it. So kind of had to do a little bit of explaining, but then really had to dive into the whole, well, what does this mean? Well, it's a golden ticket to Western States, the race at the end of June, and explain it that way. But they were pretty stoked once they realized what it all meant, and they liked carrying it around for sure. They were very protective of it too, making sure it didn't get damaged or anything like that on the way home. So
that's super cute. I can't tell what's more exciting, to introduce your kids to Willy Wonka or Western States. So it's a bit of a toss up, if you ask me. So it's been 2 weeks since Black Canyon. What are your thoughts about the race now?
Honestly, still kind of settling in, and thinking back on it. Had some time to really think about the day, the race, the lead up to it and everything. And it's still kind of unbelievable, to be honest with you. Frankly, have been pretty busy with work and family since then. So it hasn't been, at the forefront of my mind. But boy, I'll tell you, it's nice to drift back there every once in a while and, relive a little bit of it, because it was a hell of a day for sure.
Wow.
And
taking first place at Canyon is a huge accomplishment. And I wanted to know, has anything changed for you since?
There's been just a ton of support coming out from just the running community in general. I'll tell you, my Strava followers have increased exponentially. It's been kind of fun. I've had to try to figure out Instagram, and I apologize for anybody who haven't gotten back to. I'm learning on the fly, folks. So just little things like that. But, everybody's, just a lot of congratulations, a lot of, good job from kind of all over the place, be it the grocery store, folks run into at the gym. It's pretty cool. But, day-to-day stuff, it's just back to work, back to family, doing dishes, laundry, cooking, and, just the daily work stuff.
It's got to be surreal to go from, I'm just a runner, to then I am recognized on a national level for your accomplishment. Have you been approached by any, I don't know, sponsors, anything like that? I'm just curious to know if they're starting to ring your bell.
No, really haven't been approached by anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And, support would be great, but, I'm just doing my thing, if you will. And just a guy who likes to get out there and run, get after it. After meeting all the other obligations first with, family and work. But a little bit of support would be great, but, that's not why I do it. I do it because I enjoy getting out there, and it's that release, if you will, that kind of solace that you find in the run a lot of the time that keeps me going. But it's kind of surreal being, as you said, recognized on the national level. And it's have watched a little bit of some of the post race or the live stream and some of the other stuff, and to hear your name mentioned by some of these greats, if you will, in the sport is, like I said, it's kind of unbelievable, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Do you have any takeaways from Canyons, and did you learn anything about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think just during the race itself, the, a lot of the basics of ultra running and the nutrition, hydration stuff, there's, have only done really a handful of them and been learning pretty steep learning curve every time. And, definitely learned a few lessons for sure on, just pacing, ran out of water a few times. Nutrition could have been a little bit better. Things like that, just capitalizing on some of the aid station availability there. And then just the pacing, but then just about myself too, just, some of the confidence and taking that away from the race, because going in, as I said, I didn't give myself a snowball's chance in Phoenix, if you will.
Oh, yeah. That's not much. So. I'm curious to know, how much was left in your tank after you finished? Was it like I left it all out there? You know what? I think I could have, knocked a few more minutes off that.
So honestly, I think I could have gone quicker, but was actually starting to have some decent kind of calf cramps from, maybe 45 miles in to the finish. And those were definitely slowing me down, because I think, definitely could have pushed it harder, but I could just feel those cramps coming on. And there were a couple times where they started cramping up pretty good, where it was like, if I push, I could just shut everything down right now. So there was more in the tank. But again, it all goes back to, that nutrition, the hydration that definitely didn't hit it out of the park that day with those, running out of water and electrolytes for sure during the race. So lesson learned.
Yeah, I was passing through town that day, and it was a pretty warm day there.
Yeah, it definitely got toasty. It's a tough environment for sure. Virtually no shade, and there was no water really in the river crossings. I mean, there was a little bit, but you could literally get across without getting your feet wet. And just that opportunity to cool off, and then that hot wind to just drying you out throughout the day. So they were tough conditions throughout the day, and then such a cold start, and then it just gets 50 degrees warmer by the finish. It makes for a challenging day.
Let's talk about that. So game time. Tell us about how the day unfolded for you.
So really had been looking at the start list a couple weeks before, and knew there were just a ton of fast runners. Some really some big dogs, if you will, coming for these golden tickets, and knew there was the third one on the or available, if you will, and looked at everybody at the start. Everybody was looking fit, fast, jumping around, having a good time, and just enjoying the moment. And knew that there was that one bit of single track after watching the video from last year coming off of the track, and knew it kind of bottled up there, and there was that little gate before you kind of opened up back into the neighborhoods and you got on the county roads, and kind of right from the gun there, just took a couple of quick strides to get out in front, just to kind of stretch my legs a little bit, and continued to kind of stride it out, and was like, okay, I'll just hit this piece of single track first. And it's a real short piece, but not a real well developed trail by any means till you get into the neighborhoods, and just kind of led right there, first part of the track, and just kind of started stretching it out a little bit, and felt good, and cruised in the neighborhood, and looked back and could hear the footfalls and people chatting, and was like, oh, there's a pretty big pack back there. And it was like, okay, everybody's going to come up to me here pretty quick, but I'll just keep striding out, run my race. And was feeling good, and the miles were ticking over pretty quick, and got off the pavement and then into the county road, the better county road, and the wind was blowing pretty good. And it was like, oh, I'm feeling all right, and they're not really gaining on me. I'll just keep cruising. And, subsequently just kind of kept rolling for the first couple miles. Cause, I kept thinking too, it was like, man, I feel good. Stay in front of the pack right now. Every mile down is one in the bank, and it's still nice and cool. So kept rolling, and didn't want to get into the whole, I guess, pack mentality for me. With people starting to size each other up and listening to breathing, and what that would look like for me in the pack. I was like, oh, I'm just going to run my race, and when they catch up to me, they catch up to me. So kept cruising, and then hit the first gate, basically jumped that, and took a pretty good spill, like 3-4 miles in, and I was like, oh, great, this is how my day is going to go. And cut open both knees and my right hand. Not terribly, but they kept bleeding for a little bit, and kept going, but it was getting on more of the double track, if you will, the 2 tracks, little wet, lower maintained roads, heading south there, and kept looking back, and I was like, man, that pack's pretty big, but they're not really gaining on me, and seemed to be stretching out a little bit. So I was like, okay, I'll just take this all the way down till we hit the first piece of real good single track, and we'd start diving down into the canyon. Because I knew from 2 years ago that race, was kind of in that lead group, and it, then you start running other people's paces, and that's the one thing I kind of know about myself, and honestly, it run by myself most of the time, like 99% of the time, and no, I like running my pace, be it uphill, downhill, on the flats, and just started cruising and hit that single track and just kept rolling. and figured again, people were going to come up to me because again, I looked at that start list and knew how fast so many of these folks were, and just some of the times that they posted, training runs, things like that. And it's just like, man, I'm nowhere near that level, and just felt good. Kept moving. Hit Bumblebee. Had a decent gap, I found out, and then was still feeling good. Hit that next section all the way down to Black Canyon City. And again, I kept looking back every once in a while and couldn't see anybody. Again, ran out of water a couple of times in between the aid stations, a little bit of mix up, but that happens and you just keep rolling. And again, I just was like, man, they got to be coming soon.
What's going through your mind at this point when you realize, like, I'm out in front and I'm like, in rowing, they call it open water, right? There's so much distance between you and the next competitor. You can't see them. What are you thinking about at that point?
I kept thinking, like, okay, run your race, keep, push when you can push, cruise when you got to cruise, and then just take it easy when you feel like you need to take it easy. Make sure you're, trying to get as many calories in as you can, and just being in the moment, if you will, enjoying the trail, enjoying the footfalls, the wind when you get a cool tailwind, if you will,
yeah.
The little bits of shade, and just, thinking back to, like, knowing it's heating up, but knowing too that everybody behind me is facing those same conditions, the lack of shade, days warming up, and I was still just honestly not giving myself a chance.
Wow.
Because I know how hard that race was.
Yeah.
Or is.
Okay. So you passed through Bumblebee now, and you realize, like, all right, I got some distance here. What's coming up next for you?
Then I just really kept thinking, okay, coming out of Bumblebee, you got that really big climb, that's pretty rough, and just kept cruising up that. Have done that climb a couple times in some of the training runs, which were great opportunity to get to know the course, and took it at a decent clip, but definitely not my fastest, and just kind of kept the cadence as best I could, and then just got over the top and kind of let the legs keep rolling for a bit on that downhill, and just kept thinking about Table Mesa. And it was honestly, you kind of kept asking me about what I kept thinking about, and a lot of it was I kept thinking about my family. And it's funny because actually, like 2 years ago, I ran this race, and between Bumblebee and the next aid, which I think was Gloriana, I dropped my phone. I was carrying my phone, listening to music, but I had turned off my music and lost my phone. So I ran around like a chicken with my head cut off.
Oh, dear.
About 30 minutes 2 years ago. But anyway.
And you ran that in 9 hours, 9 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So you could have finished it in, 8.5, 8:40. Oof.
Yep.
Ooh-wee. Did you find your phone?
Somebody else did, and they brought it to the finish for me. They gave it to a buddy of mine who brought it to the finish. It was pretty sweet. But anyway, I kept thinking about my kids and my wife, and I actually, as crazy as it sounds, on that last stretch going into Gloriana before you cross Bumblebee Road again, I actually pulled out my phone real quick and called her during the race. And
you did not.
I did. And I called her, and I just, had to say, hey, babe, I'm almost to Bumblebee Road again. I love you guys. I'll see you at Black Canyon City. And that's really what kept me going all day. And I mean, it was, I was still running for sure, but just with my headphones, but it was, kind of fitting, if you will. But that's what kept me going all day, and that's what I kept going back to, and knowing that my kids would be at each of those crew aid stations, because, man, when I saw them every time, it just gave me wings, if you will.
Oh, wow. The spark. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay. And the rest of the way, you just kept it going. They took you home.
Yeah, pretty much. Got to Table Mesa, and like I said, had some little bit of cramping going on, and then it got worse from there, obviously heating up.
Yeah.
But then kind of once I got over that last climb coming out of Table Mesa, I somewhat started to believe, that I might be able to get a golden ticket, because I still had that inkling that, man, they're coming up on me quick. Because I remember seeing, I think it was Seth Ruling coming out of Black Canyon City, and he looked real strong. And then I saw a couple other folks coming out of going on that out and back, Scott and I think Anthony and Justin, and seeing those guys, and I was like, man, they're not that far. But then I just kept chugging to Table Mesa, and then at the last aid station, Doe Springs, 3.5 miles, it's like you can do anything, and just kept cruising, and really till I saw another buddy there just a couple miles from the finish, when long kind of straight stretch on a 2-track, and I was like, Cody, can you see anybody behind me? And he's like, no, man, you're going to win this thing. You're going to Western States. And I was like, no way, dude. And that kind of gave me that last little push, and just kind of rolled into the finish. And honestly, did that kind of big fist pump jump at the finish, and saw my kids and was pointing to them as I crossed the line. And it was pretty unbelievable.
What's the first thing you say to your wife after you finish?
Just, I love you, babe, and thank you, because of what she does for our family, and how she takes care of us. And we joke, she is the CEO and COO of our household. She runs the show, and she is my life, my love. And that's really all you can say, is just thank you, and I love you.
That's amazing. That's beautiful. And she's she keeps the machine going.
Oh yeah, she does.
Everybody, yeah.
We would be lost without her, for sure, and I would be, certainly. But no, she keeps us all going, and that's it. Just thank you.
Yeah. Let's break this down a little bit. The second place finisher, Scott Trayer, came in at 8:03, and Jeffrey Colt in 8:05, and you came in at 7:57, just to show how you put distance on these guys, but they definitely were in the hunt. If you spread that out over the course of 100K, you were leading Scott by 6 seconds per mile, and Jeffrey by 8 seconds per mile, which is pretty incredible to have that showing out there, and just show how competitive and close it was.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely, those guys, I mean, Scott seemed real fresh at the end. So did Jeff. And they came across the line looking really good. And no, I think they ran great races. I mean, they paced it really well. I definitely think I went out, hotter, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but those guys, paced it really well. And it really was a close race when you really break it down over that distance, for sure.
So we know that in 2020 that you finished it in 9:09, which we mentioned earlier. And we know that you could have run it faster, that you could have done it in, 8.5 hours, 8.5, 40. And, you shaved a good, 30, 40 minutes off that with this showing. But between your first Black Canyon and your next 50K, which was in December or later that year, You ran that in 3 hours, 37 minutes. I kind of want to know what happened. Did anything change for you in that 9 to 10 month time period in terms of your running style, your training, et cetera?
A lot of it's kind of stayed the same, just in terms of training. Tried to eat better. Pretty much gluten-free most of the time. Sometimes more on that gluten-friendly side of the house. That's one thing, as a family we do. We've got some food allergy sensitivities and really try to do that. So that's helped just physically. Like I can feel that just, in my joints, and just lost a little bit of weight in that regard. And then also trying to focus a little bit more on kind of leg speed and turnover. That's one thing that historically I've been pretty poor at. Honestly, I couldn't tell you what my fastest mile time is because I haven't probably tried to run one in 20 years.
True. But, you may want to do that.
Yeah. But little things like that, like just focusing more on trying to keep my legs turning over faster, because I can, grind it out. Tons of hiking, things like that. But just really tried to focus on, those little things, those low hanging fruit. So, I'm a taller guy. I'm 6'3". So I have that benefit of having that longer stride. So if I can turn my legs over that, quarter second quicker, it makes a huge difference. And, none of this is, I don't have a coach really right now, just getting some good advisement from a few folks. But really trying to, focus on those low hanging fruit things that I know I can. Taking better care of my feet. That's one thing I still have a ways to go improving on. So things like that, I think it all adds up.
Yeah. And let's talk about your feet for a second. So you mentioned that, what's the issue with your feet?
Oh, and I know folks have kind of looked at it and said, oh, you got pretty low mileage and just things like that. Like, 100K on, I'm doing 60, maybe 70 miles a week sometimes, running. And this time of year, it's even tough. Like I said, we just got about 13 inches of snow here in town. So my running is kind of limited a lot of the time. And, just that amount of, those amount of miles continuously without that good base strength in your feet I definitely felt it. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
Things like that. But it's just trying to check all those boxes, if you will, because I know, like with Western states, there's every little weakness will get
exacerbated.
It'll come out for sure.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Let's get into that. So, WSOMG, here we go in June, your first 100 miler, 4 months to train. What's your kind of outlook? What's your plan?
So, really, as I said, trying to work on the low hanging fruit stuff, and then really trying to get more miles on my feet, get some good heat training in. And then, a lot of time on the bike as well, and trying to mix it up quite a bit. First 100 miler. So that's a big unknown, but, have definitely been doing a lot of research on the race, on the course. Probably won't get over there for any runs, but have been over to that area quite a bit on fires. So familiar in that regards to what we'll be dealing with the heat, the terrain and all that. So focusing on that, and then, trying to be realistic too. Obviously with full-time job and a family, it's tough. And to be honest, the end of June is the peak of fire season here in the Southwest, and have to balance that with my obligations to work for sure, because with the organization that I have and the responsibilities, it's there's a balance there, because we're looking at a pretty significant fire season here in the Southwest, along with the West for that matter. But we've had a pretty dry and warm winter. Obviously, we just got some snow, but we are well behind the power curve, if you will, for moisture. And, up until this last storm, we were getting small fires, in January, February, and that's pretty unheard of right now. So having to balance that, but at the same time, I'm going to do my damnedest to be ready for Western states, because I definitely, want to throw down as best as possible and, give the race the respect and honor it deserves, because earning a golden ticket it's no BS, and want to do my best, if you will.
I really appreciate your dedication to our wildlands and for the people and businesses that are in some of these places. So thank you for your service that you've provided to us. And I also appreciate that just kind of the respect and reverence that you have for this event and how meaningful it is. So, I mean, it's gotta say, like, you've just got your head on straight, which is great, that you just have your priorities in line, family, work, and then, Western states. Yeah, you kind of take a third place seat to all this. So, but getting back to states, and I do want to get more into who you are as a person, True, and I'm looking forward to that. Are there any aspects of the race that you're like hyper focused on or springing to you right now?
No, a lot of it's just the distance and the heat is really making sure that I'm as prepared as possible for those two things, because I know everybody says the race starts at Forest Hill, if you will.
Yep.
And obviously that's a still quite a ways to go, and really making sure that I'm as prepared as possible to meet that challenge coming out of Forest Hill. And it's funny because I was thinking back, looking at the course, and on fires years ago, I slept at the Forest Hill High School before diving into fires in and around French Meadows, the reservoir there, and just all that country. But just making sure that I'm ready for that heat and that distance, because that's no joke. 100 miles in those kind of conditions, and making sure that you can go the distance and give it all for sure.
Yeah. How will running in flag prepare you for Western states?
So, I mean, one, we've got the elevation, which is nice, about that 7,000 feet. And then, folks think, that it's always nice and cool up here, but it gets pretty toasty, particularly, that May, June timeline up here, where we're broaching 90 degrees, and that is pretty darn warm at that elevation. And I realize dealing with it the same, some of the same elevations there Western, but that's going to be pretty substantial. And then, also having the opportunity to get down, hopefully, to some lower elevation, pretty warmer temps, i.e. the canyon, and dropping down into Sedona, Verde Valley, where, we're talking 110 sometimes of the year before. So having some really good opportunities. And then Flagstaff, as we were chatting about, is just an awesome area to go train, just with the trails and some of the folks in and around here, and really hoping to glean some insight from folks, obviously would love to sit down with Jim Walmsley and, some of the cowboys that have done very well at Western states, just to get some insight and some ideas on how best to prepare. But again, Flag's just an awesome location with an awesome support network to get ready for this event.
How weird is it that, like, if I went back and saw True a year ago and said, True, a year from now, you're going to be sitting down and talking to Jim Walmsley, picking his brain about Western states. What would you say to that?
It would be, kind of surreal. I'd probably laugh at myself and say, yeah, you're crazy. You're living in an alternate universe. And no, I would just, like I said, I would love the opportunity to pick his brain a little bit. But, it's just incredible. And, have really, we've chatted briefly a couple times on the hill. But, never really had the chance, and just never even thought that there would be an opportunity or, this opportunity to kind of have for this event. Cause you look at what he's done there and, all the other folks in and around town, what their results are that have done so well here. It's crazy.
The conditions are kind of right for you. I'm liking what I'm seeing right now with you, True, and which is that you are training at a perfect elevation of where you live in Flag. And the course at Black Canyon is pretty comparable, I think, to Western states. And that Canyons is, a lot of downhill and a lot of up, and a lot of exposure and heat. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I mean, Flag's a great location, elevation, and for sure Black Canyon, I think, is a good analog, if you will. But obviously, there's a lot more distance to it, and it's warmer. But yeah, I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, trying to be realistic too, with how training is going to go, to stay healthy, to stay, have opportunities. Because, with, as I said, fire season in and around here, what that looks like, and the injury thing. And I mean, recognizing too, I'll be 42 years old at the start line, and what that looks like, just making sure everything holds up, because those aches and pains are real for sure.
Yes, they are. Come see me at 6 a.m. in the morning when I wake up. So you have some nagging things. What would you say are your strengths and weaknesses when it comes to running? And we can put the 100-mile distance aside. I don't know about that. It's untested. That's okay. But currently, what are those things for you?
No, I think strength-wise is, I would say my mental fortitude, if you will. And I think a lot of that comes from, just this job. Spent a large portion of my career working on hotshot crews around the West, fighting fire.
Yeah. Can you explain to the folks? I'm sorry to interrupt, True. What a hotshot crew is?
No, it's absolutely. It's a 20-person. Now we're getting a few more folks on the crews these days, but typically a 20-person hand crew that's available to travel around the country and sometimes get sent to other countries as well, that fights wildland fires, utilized for project work too, implementing prescribed fire and thinning projects. They're crews that are work for the U.S. Forest Service, Department of Interior. There's some tribal crews, but 20-person hand crews where typical shift is a 16-hour day where you're gone for 2 weeks at a time, working 16 hours a day, again, sent to the high priority fires around the country. And, you're hiking around areas like, the Western States course, carrying 45 plus pounds, a chainsaw, wearing, 8-inch boots, Nomex, chainsaw chaps, hard hat, and, working in 100+ degree heat down to freezing for 6 months out of the year. And, obviously fire seasons, fire years are getting longer, if you will. And doing that for, I did that for 13 years, and that's where a lot of it comes from. And it's brutal work. It is backbreaking, dangerous, brutal work. It's also very rewarding too. And you definitely know you did good a lot of days. There are other days where you definitely would not chalk it up in the win column, and had a few of those, but it is really rewarding, noble work. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of my strengths come from that, just those experiences, good, bad, otherwise, because it is brutal work.
Yeah.
But you get to see some awesome places too.
Yeah. So I live just in, short distance from where we had the campfire in Paradise, mm-hmm. devastating. The Santa Rosa fire wiped out neighborhoods. The Caldor fire last year, which ran up El Dorado County up to South Lake Tahoe, devastating. And I work for a county, and I work in communications. And when there's a emergency like that, I'm working communications on that with evacuations and all that sort of thing. And so I have a deep appreciation for the hard work of the men and women do for this to save, life, limb, and property, and our beautiful natural resources, and damn hard work. And I'm just in awe of what you guys all do, because no one is forcing you to do it. And you just do it out of, because you just love it. So thanks again. I can see just the mental fortitude and the strength that it would take to do that job, and how that would apply to you as a runner. And boy, howdy, True. I'm liking what I'm seeing. So what is your favorite or least favorite part of your training regimen? It's like, oh, I got to do this. Is there anything like that for you?
I would say a lot of the time, it's the some of that speed work stuff that I was talking about. It's just, excuse me, it's something that, kind of for years of just grinding it out, it's hard to get this old body moving, this gray horse to gallop, if you will. And I know that sounds weird, but I've got a pretty good engine and can turn over the miles. But when it comes to those sprint efforts, things like that I'm starting to do more. Those are the more difficult days when you got to suck it up, buttercup, and get after it. But really, other than that, though, and that's it's not that I dislike it. It's just one of my least favorite, but I just kind of enjoy the work and the process.
Okay.
And that's, I like exercising. I like taking care of myself, and the work in the process and is where I find comfort a lot of the time. So it's just part of life, I guess, is the way I look at it. And don't try to box it into, like a typical training plan. If that kind of makes sense. It's right. Like, no, this is who I am. This is who we are, when it comes to diet, rest, just the physical activity. It's part of who I am, and that's how I try to frame it. And so I know I kind of took that a little different way than you were maybe intended.
That's
but
okay.
That's where I like to focus on.
Yeah. What's one thing that you absolutely will not sacrifice during your peak training?
What will I not sacrifice during peak training? spending time with the family and trying to maximize that is pretty important. And it is the most important thing, and really trying to never lose sight of that. And that can be hard sometimes because, everything else starts getting bolder and brighter, if you will, as you're, getting closer to something, but really trying to focus on that. And, that would be the main thing. I guess I'm a sucker for a bowl of ice cream in the evening too. Mm-hmm. And, always enjoy a little bowl of ice cream before calling it a day.
True. What's your go-to flavor?
Honestly, I'm a vanilla guy.
Vanilla guy, really?
I am a vanilla guy, and have always enjoyed vanilla. And people think it's boring, but when you really dive down into a good vanilla, it's pretty damn complex. And it's funny that we're talking about that now, because people would call me vanilla a lot of the time, but when you dive down into it, there's a little more there. So
that is such a great analogy. I love that. I absolutely love that. Speaking to the kind of there's two sides to a runner. There is the I need to train mode. And then there's that's in battle with I'm a dad, I'm a husband guy, right? And those two guys, they can clash up against each other. So how do you fit in the running?
It's tough. It is tough a lot of the time to find that balance. Right now my day job is one of the guys that does work for me ran the race as well, and did an awesome job. And kudos to him for tackling it as well. But we were joking driving down, and I'm more of a desk guy now. Still get out as much as I can, but a lot of it is early mornings and squeezing it in when I can. If folks, I know some have been looking at my Strava, but I get up at 4 a.m. to work out. A lot of that time is spent on the rollers on a bike inside, and then trying to get as much in as I can first thing in the morning before the family's up, before I got to start making breakfast. And then, at work, trying to squeeze a run in here or there. And that's challenging to work it in and around meetings, fires, particularly as we get into the heart of the season and start traveling as well to large fires. But really just trying to capitalize on those opportunities and having those shoes, tights, shorts ready to go, where if I can get out for an hour, at 11 in the morning between 2 meetings and a lunch, all the better. Sometimes it doesn't happen until 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, and then try to get on the long run when I can, but then just trying to stay active throughout the day. So it's not easy for sure. And that's where I got to be realistic with the training and everything too, because obviously family and work do need to come first. But I will say too, though, that, with Western states on the horizon, the support that I've been getting from work, and, everybody recognizes what the commitment is there and are 100% supportive. My boss, my ranger, is, completely on board. All the upper level fire leadership is, and it's a pretty cool feeling that way to know that there's that support to get ready and be able to attend this. So
glad you said that, because that's something I think we sometimes take for granted, because it is a huge thing for someone who doesn't do ultras, who doesn't know anything about it, to lend their support because they recognize the significance of it, which I think says a lot about our sport in terms of its growth, which is a good thing. So it's really commendable that you have that kind of support from your superiors and your coworkers and your family and your friends, because, there was a time when people thought, and still do think that, what? That's crazy. No, you can't. We're not going to, what? That's about as far as it goes.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. And yeah, it's pretty amazing in our sport. Just the diversity of the folks that are out there doing it for really just the love of the sport. And that's one thing that really drew me into this sport. And like I said, I do 99% of my training by myself, but that first ultra I ran a couple of years ago, seeing the dedication that people were giving to the event and how much fun they were having, regardless of where they finished, was pretty awesome to see. And to see it for, really people that were just chasing the cutoffs at the finish there, that had their families there, hardly anybody at the finish line, but the announcer was still cheering them on and getting claps for effectively a finisher's medal and a t-shirt, maybe a belt buckle. And seeing that is pretty awesome, because, very few people are, from what I can tell, getting any, support and making it professionally in the sport.
Yeah.
But seeing that as a community is pretty awesome. And then too, just the knowing, I don't know, everybody has their own story, but just knowing all the work that goes into just getting to that start line too is amazing at all levels. Be it the Jim Walmsleys, the Courtneys, to the folks, as I said, that are just chasing the cutoff times.
Yep. And
that's all that work that goes unrecognized except to them and their families. It's amazing to see, and that's what's so amazing about this sport.
Yeah,
our sport, if you will.
It's remarkable on any level. A couple more questions for you. True, what do you like to do for fun?
Honestly, I like being outside and, working out. I like going for bike rides. I like going for runs. I like going for hikes. I like spending time with my family and, just hanging out with them is pretty cool. I like cooking with my family. There are very few things I like more than making breakfast with my family. And, that can be something as simple as frying up eggs to, making pancakes Sunday morning type of deal. But those are the things that keep me going. Yep. For sure. We don't watch a whole lot of TV. And then two, I love reading stories to my kids. And that is one thing that I really enjoy. And then I will say too, building Legos with my kids, it doesn't get much better than that either.
No, it doesn't. I can so identify with you right now. True. It's so great. My big question is, do you do the voices when you're reading stories?
I don't. I really don't. My wife does, and she does a significantly better job than I do. No, I always, my wife for years has said I've got just a gravelly voice, so little self-conscious about that. So I just kind of read the story as is, but my wife does a very good job with the voices.
Yeah. So. Well, I think you have an amazing voice. I'm jealous of you. I'm like, man, I wish I had this voice. It's so good. And so don't think twice about it.
Tell my wife that later.
Please do. So. I've heard a million voices and I'm like, man, this is a great one. So you should champion that one for sure. And my last question for you, True, is tell me your first name, Trueheart. What's the origin of that?
So it's actually, and I haven't really got into this, but so Trueheart is my middle name, and my legal name is Rogers Trueheart Brown, and it goes all the way back to Scotland, Great Britain, where my dad's side of the family, a lot of history there, and it's been used in that side of the family as a first, middle, and last name for as far as we can trace back.
Wow.
And my son, it's his middle name as well, but I go by True and Trueheart because even growing up, even when I was, little, my parents never called me by Rogers. And even to this day, somebody calls me that, I probably don't even recognize it. Like, they didn't even call me that when I was really bad. You know how your parents always used to call you by your full name? Like, they would never even use it when I got real bad. So, it's just stuck. And I just go by True.
Yeah.
90% of the time, or Trueheart. So
you certainly are living up to the name, Trueheart, and your Scottish ancestors would be proud. I cannot wait to meet you at States. I'll be there. Let's just keep our fingers crossed that there's nothing burning. But man, I am so excited for you. I am rooting for you all the way, and can't wait to see what happens.
Well, I appreciate it, Scotty. And no, it's been great. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today, and really looking forward to States and the lead up to it. And it's going to be a great day regardless. And no, fingers crossed on the fire situation. And again, thanks for the time, Scotty.
You got to give my best to your family, and thank the kids for taking care of that golden ticket. Hey, what?
Absolutely. I will.
All right, True. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Scotty.
Thank you so much, True, for sharing your time and your story with us. Not to mention the blood, sweat, and grit that you pour into protecting our public lands. Is there someone that you'd like to hear on the podcast? Let me know. You can email me at heyscotty@ultrarunning.com. I promise I won't bite. Okay, and be sure to check out all of our wonderful articles at our website, ultrarunning.com, for articles to help you run smarter, not harder. All right, thank you so much for sharing your time with me. You've been listening to the Ultra Running Magazine podcast. Live long.